we are knocking on the door of the best time of year where you really get paid for the hard work you put in. And you know what I mean? Like having that long vision. I've been doing that since 2017. I have over 250,000 products. If Amazon tomorrow wanted to just ban every merch seller, Amazon would benefit.
Ryan, I'm really happy to have you on the show today. I think most people watching will probably know who you are. But for those people who don't know, why don't you just quickly introduce yourself? What do you do? What tier are you on Amazon Merch? I think that's sort of the biggest platform you're on.
Hey, Philip, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm selling print on demand since 2017. I found out about Amazon merch from a Make Money Online subreddit. So super random. I always like to say, like, I applied. I did not get in. I applied in 2016 at like the end of the year, did not get in. Honestly, never heard back. Completely forgot about it. And it came across, call it fate or whatever, my desk again in like 2017, probably March. I think it was honestly about 6 months after I initially applied. So I just applied again, said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Got in April, didn't do anything with the account for a few weeks. And then one day, one of the benefits working as a web developer, as I used to, of sitting at a computer all day is that, like, you have that downtime. And I'm like, when I was at work, I would call it the double down. It's like, I'm getting paid to be here. I'm going to get my work done, but I'm here to make money. So I'm going to make as much money as I can while I'm here, And so I ended up taking advantage of that merch account. The rest was history. You know what I mean? I didn't know what I was doing back then. I faced that learning curve. I'm sure you can relate. I know you've been in merch for a while. And I also sold FBA at the same time as well. My goal was basically to not work a day job. You know what I mean? I actually had a nice job where I sat next to my best friend from childhood. Like, I got him a job at the same company. No real complaints other than that the company wasn't going anywhere. But sitting in traffic, honestly, was all the motivation I needed to not want to do that anymore. So I ended up parlaying Amazon merch into selling print on demand on Amazon Seller Central because I was already doing FBA. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to take my t-shirt designs, post them on other products. I'm going to do Amazon KDP. As soon as I heard about that, I took my t-shirt designs and put them on book covers. And that was really the journey, and I mean, I'm a talking head on a screen. People think sometimes that means I know it all. The reality is I try to be transparent that I was just testing things and applying like my own logic to approach these business approaches, you know what I mean? Trying to make sense of it as I go. So that's really my story to start.
Yeah, interesting. It's funny how there's sometimes so much luck involved with it, right? You just randomly stumbled upon Amazon merch, just ignored it at first, and then did you start with FBA specifically, or did you do them like at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I
Which was
started with
first?
FBA because that's what I knew. That was what was hot back then. Everybody was talking about FBA, but man, I couldn't figure it out. Like
Yeah.
I spent 2016 really trying to figure out what was next. Like, I used my web development skills to immediately start like a web development, like an LLC, basically. I say company. It was me, you know what I mean? And an LLC, a separate tax ID. And just through word of mouth, I had plenty of business, but it wasn't making enough money. And I had that thing where we undervalue ourselves and our time. So I had to get over that. But it was still always going to be trading time for money. So I knew that wasn't really where I wanted to be. But just for what it's worth, like, one kind of thing I really believe in strongly is like monetizing what you're good at and really just kind of making as much money from that skill set as you can if you're actually good at it. So for me, it was like work as a web developer, have a web development side hustle, have my own websites that I monetized, and teach web development as a second job. But I made it all work. It wasn't like where I'm driving 3 hours to some school to teach and then driving 3 hours back, and it's like a terrible usage of my time. It was like drive on the way home, stop by the university, teach 2 nights a week, 3 classes a semester for 7.5. You know what I'm saying? So I always try to make sense of things. But yeah, man, like being open to these things, like being open to the subreddit for making money online is how I came across it. So I was always really looking for these opportunities. With FBA, I couldn't figure it out. Like, I didn't even know where to start, really. Fate again, really, if you will. Like, I had a buddy who like he was an entrepreneur. Me and him, like, he was in my fraternity in college. Like, we had a great time in college, and then we had to grow up at some point, right? I was supporting him at a local like small business owners meeting. He was given a keynote speech, like, and this was like early. This was like 6:30 a.m. in the morning when I don't wake up before 7:30, let's put it that way. So I had to wake up real
Okay.
early, go support him. And I'm
Yeah.
at this place listening to him speak, like wiping, like trying to wake up, wiping my eyes. And there just so happens to be somebody there who's like an Amazon FBA coach. Like they went around the room, everybody introduced themselves and what they do. And this dude said he sells on Amazon FBA and he coaches people. And I was like, no way. You know what I mean? Like that was fate, if you will. Like I said, I have to talk to this guy. I cannot leave here without talking to that guy. And I paid him 2,500 bucks. He made sure that I got my first product live on Amazon, and like the rest is just history. That's really what it was. So again, if you want to call it luck, whatever, that was a big part
Hmm.
of my story.
That's interesting. So that's what sort of took you from not having a clue what you're doing to actually being able to start FBA as well and making money through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I
yeah.
mean, I paid, a premium. I know there's courses that sell for more than that, but like, 2,500 back then, like, that's a decent amount of money. It's a big hole to start in. For me though, like while I maybe sold myself short as a web developer charging for my time, the one thing that I knew about myself is that like I would see it through if it made sense to see it through. You know what I mean? So me being 2,500 in the hole was just going to be that guarantee that I will make it to the end, whether or not it's a profitable product that I launch. You know what I mean? Like I
Mm.
just knew that there was no way I would waver. Like I don't have that issue, that some people may have with like, I don't know, seeing things through.
I think that's sort of one of the issues with print on demand is that it's so low risk and so easy to start pretty much for free that like most people don't have anything invested in it. There's no risk of losing anything. Whereas if
Right.
you have a bit of an upfront investment, you're way more likely to actually be motivated to, and whether that is coaching, a course or a tool, like if you invested into upload automation fairly early, that would also motivate you to actually, create enough designs to be able to upload them in bulk. Whatever it is, I think something that kind of gets you more invested than just starting it for free, sort of on the side, could probably help a lot of people out with print on demand specifically. And you're in tier 200,000 now on Amazon merch.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know you mentioned before it's taken its time. You had to go through the learning curve. So how long did it take you to actually reach tier 200,000?
Yeah, I mean, I made my first sale on Amazon merch in April of 2017, which coincidentally also made my first FBA sale in April of 2017. And if anybody cares to like go and see how unimpressive my journey really was, I actually published like monthly income reports from the beginning, from that month, my first sale month, on my like blog at ryanhogue.com/income reports, or on my YouTube channel. I have like video versions of them. And yeah, I think I made like 5 sales, if I recall. I think it was like 5 FBA sales and maybe like 2 merch sales. I don't know. It definitely like, and that wasn't like, it wasn't like I uploaded one product and then it instantly sold. Like I had no clue what I was doing, man. My first design ever that sold, it was the ugliest design probably on Amazon. It was truly like, it was like asymmetric, floating text that made no sense, terrible font choice, super small, so it's like hard to read.
Yeah.
Everything bad, everything that is the exact opposite of what I teach today. It was all of those things. And I'm pretty sure I listed it on like a brown shirt. Yeah, just why? I don't know. But brown was like what I ended up listing it as. And it's just like, dude, this is so bad, but it sold. And something like went off in my mind. I was like, ding, if I can sell this, I can sell 2 tomorrow and then 4 the next day. Man, I like back then I was a little bit more like bullish on like convincing my friends and family of like what was possible. And I would talk about it all the time, be so excited. You know what's funny though is like I'm honestly, man, like almost nobody really followed through. My girlfriend's awesome, she does.
Okay.
Besides that though, I don't know anybody in real life, like in my circles, man. And I have like pretty big networks of people that actually care enough to try. I get the people who like will call me every now and then and be like, yo, I need to start this passive income thing. But it's like that accountability. I think everything circles back to that accountability thing. So many people can't hold themselves accountable for whatever reason. And I think that's a big, anybody watching, like do whatever it takes, like figure out what you need to do to see things through, to boil these things down into step-by-step chunks and follow through. But yeah, I was gonna say to follow your dude, for me, it was just like a regular thing. I worked a desk job. I spent most of my time at work, honestly. Like that was where I think I got most of the merch stuff done. Um, just because as a web developer, like things are as hard as you make it on yourself. Like there's long ways to solve problems and then there's short ways. And typically like the better developer gets it done quicker in my mind, using less code. So I didn't really struggle with my day job, but it wasn't like something that I wanted to be doing forever. And I got a lot of my merch stuff done. People would walk behind me, be like, "Oh, you're designing t-shirts again?" I'd be like, "Yep." Like, what are you gonna like? What's the threat here? Are you gonna fire me? Like, I was literally hired at this is me kind of flexing, but like at age 25, I was hired as like the front end development lead of a very small company, very small, At the time, it was probably like 13 people. I was probably the 13th employee, but I saw it go up to like 30, and I saw it contract back down to like 15. So, but when I left, it was probably time to go anyways, you know? But yeah, so I
Okay.
just wasn't worried about it. Like I knew what I was like working towards, and I got a lot of
Mhm.
my work done. I did the double down, you know, get paid at 9 to 5 and make my side income streams there as well. So
Yeah. But that's interesting. I think you mentioned there that at the start, when you were just getting the odd sale, like no one really believed in that side of things working out, right?
we didn't get
Which
it.
I had the same exact experience in my first year of taking print on demand seriously, barely making any sales, like most people's experiences. I was still doing more sort of service based stuff like logo designing, and I always heard like, why don't you do more of the logo design stuff? Like, because yeah, if you're only making like $50 a month, $100 a month, it seems really stupid to people on the outside, which I understand. Why are you spending so much time doing this t-shirt stuff? But like you said, once you've got that first sale or the second sale, you think, if I can get one sale, I can get 10. If I can get 10 sales, I can get 100. And it's the fact that it's not linked to the time, right? If you realize that, once you've built up the income stream and it's fairly consistent, with a service-based business, you're always going to have to show up and
Mhm.
actually, talk to clients, do actual work. You can't just do nothing for a month and the income stays the same. If you do nothing, yeah, you're not going to make much money. So, what would you say then has been the key to your success with print on demand? Because you're selling on so many platforms, you've got a lot of designs, and obviously you've reached a really high tier, get a consistent income. What's sort of been the key for you to get to this level of success?
For me, it was definitely just knowing that if I wanted to get something done, like that I have it in me to focus and get that thing done. Like I really thrive at a computer, right? So it's no coincidence that I run computer-based businesses. I got addicted to computer games at age 13. I've probably logged 100,000 plus hours on a computer in my life. So whether it was playing computer games or whatever, like that translates into me being better at running online businesses. And like I would always be willing to put in the work. And like I have a very active brain. So it's like I'm always thinking of better ways to do whatever the workflow is that I'm doing. I famously, I'm joking when I say this, but like I famously hit the upload limit on Redbubble before they implemented an upload limit. Like nobody knew. It was 400 products a day. I hit that in a day. Like who does that? You know what I mean? But like I did that in the past. I did that. I think it was like either winter 2018 or 2019. But like I personally sat there. This was before the duplicate button. This was
Oh my
before the
god.
yeah. And I was only pushing to like the first two products, I think. Like maybe there were just two types of t-shirts. But it was just like to me, it was like, hey, I have this massive archive of designs that I've built for Amazon merch that I then figured out I can put on like coffee mugs on Amazon Seller Central. And I actually had this in my web development course that I taught in person. I would had this one kid who I would like love talking print on demand with. I've actually interviewed him on my channel. Like he was killing it on Amazon merch years later. But dude, he was like a smart dude. He just wanted to talk about making money like immediately. So we would talk print on demand. And he was like, yo, you got to get on Redbubble. I was like, all right, I trust you. I'm gonna get on Redbubble. And so I hit the upload limit in a day. I was just watching Netflix. Like I like being good at a computer, but I have like three monitors and a TV hooked up as a fourth. Like those little things like make it easy to put in the work, and I know, everybody's got different lives. Like if you're older, you have maybe dependents and you got to deal with that. And like, I get it. I get it. Those are distractions, but like, I always just say like your priorities are what you spend your time doing. So don't lie to yourself, right? Like if this business is a priority to me, like I've said no to going out. I've said no to friends and whatever it took, you know what I'm saying? I don't cook. I could spend an hour a day cooking, but I'm not even a good cook, or I can just like figure out a way of getting the food, right? Like even if you pay DoorDash, it's like, well, what is your time worth? Does it actually make more sense monetarily to buy DoorDash so that you can work, right? Like really, I have that like whatever it takes mentality. I'm going to see it through. So really just from the beginning when the numbers weren't impressive, like I thought of income in terms of dollars per day. I did the math. Like if you make $100,000 a year, how much dollars per day are you making? And then I would just think like in terms of passive income, how can I replicate that? Whether it's from one income stream or like what I prefer is a complementary approach to making passive income. It's like $50 from FBA, 60 from Amazon merch, 20 from Redbubble, 25 from KDP, and they add up together. You know what I mean? Like I just picked those numbers out of, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that's really how I thought of it. You know, the mental game, I think people get in their own way. Like for me, I just never did that to myself.
Mm. I get what you mean. And if you actually break down the numbers and do like a dollar per day amount, and you've got all of these different income streams that build up over time, then it's like they don't even have to be that massive. They just
Right.
accumulate. Like it's
I would
a
log them
really good
daily too.
concept.
I would log them daily on a spreadsheet. Sorry to cut you
Okay.
off. I would just say I would. That's like, you know what I mean, for visualization. Wake up,
Yeah.
start my computer, log them from the day before, and that just put it in perspective. Like this is the focus, you know. And I go to my day job and pretend like I cared, you know.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. I
being real.
see. You were doing it through like a what's it called? Like a screen sharing software or something where you logged into your computer at home and did
Oh,
the
I did do
version
that.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did do that too. I used Chrome remote desktop, so I would leave my home computer on. And this is like kind of years later, but like 2019 when I came across Curtis, who I know you know from Merch Titans and My Designs.
Yeah.
He reached out to me when my channel on YouTube was small, but you know, he still took like an hour out of his day to like show me Merch Titans, talk about what he's working on with these ideas and stuff like that. And like that changed my life and my journey because it meant that I could truly focus on YouTube to tell this story to create another passive income stream, again, complementary, like, you know, and still not let my other businesses suffer at all because I'm outsourcing the most tedious part to these applications, you know what I mean, that mimic what humans do anyways.
Mm-hmm. And that feeds into my next question as well, which is you're obviously like big on optimizing your processes and saving time wherever possible. So what's been your biggest time saver? What tools saved you the most time?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, Merch Titans right out of the gate, initially, that was huge because you go from like spending all this time pushing products to any platform. I mean, whether it's, you know, Redbubble was a big one because I still, you know, back then I was more bullish on Redbubble. I was making more money on Redbubble. These days, I'm too scared to even push a new product because I've got over 50,000 listings and I'm scared I'll push one product and it'll just be like banned, you know, for no reason. Like so many people seem to be
Hmm.
getting banned. Merch Titans was huge. There is a competitor called Flying Upload that also, I mean, honestly, they do a great job and they support more platforms. So anybody watching this, both great options. Flying Upload supports Tostadora, you know, your favorite platform now, right?
Yeah.
Do they support it
Yeah.
actually?
They do,
They do,
yeah.
right?
The
I think
tutorial's
that's
out
great.
now. Like last time we spoke, I hadn't made the video yet, but it's out now.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that.
they have a few more platforms, and I think one of the benefits to Flying Upload is you don't need spreadsheets. You can use them to save like extra time, but you don't need to understand them. I think a lot of people are sort of intimidated when they hear about automation that you need to use spreadsheets, and you know, I don't want to learn two tools at once. And yeah, Flying Upload doesn't require that, but yeah, upload automation for me has been the same. Where first of all, and I wonder if you can agree with this. First of all, it generates extra income streams because you get like these additional platforms that I'm guessing you didn't upload to like 8 platforms manually, did you? Yeah, you got some extra ones that you hadn't heard of before or hadn't started on, and it saves a lot of time. So it's like extra income streams, hundreds or thousands of hours of uploading time saved, where the value in those tools is really high. And I get they're expensive as a beginner, you know, it's a high price tag. But the value, once you've got some sales going, you've got a bit of consistent income, the value of them is massive, in my opinion, and from my experience. Now, one thing I often hear from people, and this is a completely different topic, but I often hear people say, I've been doing this for 3 months. I've created 200 designs, but I've had zero sales or maybe one sale, right? What am I doing wrong? So what's your typical response to those people, or what do you think they're doing wrong?
Yeah, you know, one thing I don't outsource is like answering emails and questions and stuff like that. I mean, I don't outsource much. I'm really a one man team, although I did start using an editor the other like a month or two ago, which is great. But dude, the for me, wait, sorry, what was the question? I got so off. My bad.
So no worries. So people often ask me, maybe it's the same for you, why they've been doing POD
Uh,
for 3 months with like 200 designs, but they've only gotten a sale or two, or maybe even zero sales. What do you say to them?
yeah, I was gonna say, so whenever if I ever see that anywhere, I always respond, email me links to some of your designs, always. And I look and answer all those emails myself. I literally just got one yesterday. And it's like it could obviously vary. Like a lot of times the designs are just not checking for me, like the top priority boxes of like good color contrast with whatever primary thumbnail product color. Like if it's like a black shirt, like white in your design will contrast well against, white against black. That's great.
Mm,
As opposed to like dark gray on a black shirt that no one can read, they're going to scroll right past you. Big designs. If there's text in the design, can they read it without having to like squint or click to read it? You know what I mean? Simple things. But
mm,
just yesterday, the guy actually had great designs. Here's the issue. Like his niche selection were like, it's weird being the same age as old people. You know what I mean? Like shirts that generate evergreen sales year round, but there's never really a spike and you're competing with all the incumbents because there's no like time sensitive aspect of it, like if you're in like Amazon merch tier 10, like just one simple way to know that you're not going to like pick a bad niche is as we head into like an election cycle right now, literally it could be anything political 2024. And all of a sudden the 2020 stuff or 2023 stuff or 2022 stuff, you don't have to worry about because people will actively go into Amazon search bar and type the qualifier 2024 on top of whatever previous search term was popular. So you just literally make the 2024 version of stuff that used to be popular. You're limiting, in theory, the scope of who you appeal to, but like you're still appealing to a huge portion of the demand, So it's weird, and this isn't stuff that I would ever like look down on somebody who's new for making. It's not even that you got it wrong, right? You just didn't get it as right as you possibly could. And we love talking Amazon merch because we have merch accounts. We're fortunate. Like people who are in tier 10, you only get 10 cracks at like really giving yourself a shot at making a sale. It's never going to be harder than it is in tier 10. It only gets easier. So I just recommend like don't get attached to any one design or any one niche. Like be fluid, be flexible, move from niche to niche, be in the highest trending niche at all times with all your designs. Delete the old one and re-upload it later when you're in tier 25, tier 100. That's how I feel about it.
mm. Yeah, I agree that a lot of people, if we're talking merch specifically, if you're in a tier 10, tier 25 account, what a lot of people might do wrong at first is they see some bestsellers like the, same age as old people design. They think these designs are selling well, so I'll just create the same sort of design. Whereas those niches of the top sellers, they're completely flooded, right? Lots of people have already done that. Or they're not on trend. So I've had a person recently who said, I've uploaded some Halloween designs, which is okay, it's coming up, but it's in 2 months, right? So if you're actually in tier 10, try and look for something that's happening right now or maybe next week. Try it out for 2 weeks. If nothing sells, delete the designs. That's what I would recommend. But I mean, even people who are, say, on Redbubble or TeePublic who've got 200 designs uploaded, they've waited 2 months and nothing much has happened. I would often say, like, it was fairly similar for me at the start. Like, you just have to put a lot out there and you have to give it some time to get some data points back of like, oh, I've got one sale there. Maybe I'll try that niche out again, create some more designs. It just takes longer, and especially your first designs are usually worst, so that doesn't help, right?
Exactly.
But I'm curious what
you.
Yeah, everything gets easier with time, and it's completely normal to get 1 or 2 sales in your first few months. I think that's not unnatural.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, dude, like when I'm still relatively new to my print on demand journey, it was like still 2018. It was like later in the year. So I'm about a year and a half into print on demand. Like I had not my first big success of like a hitting a trend and getting like a condensed period of lots of sales. But like for me, it was like selling hats, you know what I mean? Like so random. But you kind of like that's like not a bad way for beginners to start, minus the fact that there isn't really an easy way to list hats on a platform where they're in high demand, minus maybe like Printful, Printify to Etsy, or Printful to Amazon Seller Central. But most beginners don't want to pay $40 a month for Seller Central, Amazon Seller Central. So I get that. But the embroidery aspect is it's like it makes you make simple designs. Like you can't go and make some distressed font or like crazy complex, color scheme if you're doing embroidered hats. So like I sell a lot of embroidered hats because it's just so simple. Like I can just go make text only designs. And even if I don't even do niche research, like what is the cost of me listing them? Sometimes if it's just to Amazon, that it costs me nothing. Like my $40 a month gets paid from sales that, But besides that, there's no cost. If it's Etsy, it's 20 cents. So it's just I always put things in that like perspective. And also, our time is valuable. How much time does it take you to make a design that may or may not sell? If you spend 5 hours on a design, you better be prepared to run ads, and you better research that niche first. If you spend
Mm.
50 seconds writing a text only design that goes up on a hat, who cares if it sells or not? That's kind of how I feel. I'm always approaching things from that like reverse engineer. My goal is to make money. There's only so much time in a day. How can I maximize this?
Mm. I get that. A hat is sort of a good product for that because you've got a very limited space. Embroidery, yeah, it can be very
Yep.
detailed. So simple text stuff is ideal. Like on a t-shirt, I'd probably say try and balance quality and quantity, not only the 50-second designs, but for hats, yeah, that's a great one to try out as a beginner. Amazon Seller Central, yeah, is a bit hard to get started with because of the fees and the other stuff involved with it. But yeah, even if you just did it on Etsy, I think
If
it's
you
a
get
good one
over
to
that
try
hurdle
out.
every 30 minutes, I've been doing that since 2017. I have over a quarter million products. You know what I mean? Although I won't get into the story because there isn't really one to tell. But like Amazon search suppressed like 230,000 of them because of the change they made to the G10 exemption process, like October of 2022. Basically, search suppressed everything since then. I've talked to a million agencies, and there's like no way to do it without it being manual to get them unsuppressed.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's
So
crazy.
Amazon can screw you over. I mean, this is again another reason for multiple income streams. But I continue to
Mm,
build like because I actually believe in this. Like I teach it and I'm actually doing it every day. So like today, I'm already pushing products. I've already pushed a bunch this morning, and I'm gonna do it throughout the rest of the day. The fourth quarter is around the corner. Like I'm just gonna keep pushing forward.
yeah, yeah, I agree. That is the benefit of the multiple income streams because you don't have 100% control with these marketplaces. They can change their algorithm overnight. They can change the rules and or even randomly close a shop like we're used to from Redbubble, TeePublic. So, um, but if you build up multiple income streams, you've got a bit of a safety net, and it might not even have that much of an impact. So, one thing I'm curious about is I'm sure you've heard of like the 80-20 rule that 20% of the designs that we create get sales, whereas the rest doesn't really do much. Or I guess you could say 20% of our designs create most of our income. Has that
Yeah.
sort of been your experience as well?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's because of how these. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. I wonder if it existed that way, like before algorithms kind of dictated what products people saw at the top of search results. You know what I mean? If we ran retail stores, would that have been the case? Maybe. But you know how it is with like Amazon and Etsy and pretty much any of these online marketplaces. Somebody who goes types in a keyword search and makes a purchase, that sends such a strong signal to the algorithm that whatever they had typed into the search bar, clicked and purchased, like they should be that listing should be associated with that phrase the next time somebody searches it. And then you get reviews and all these things, right? And yeah, I think that has a lot to do with probably why it has played out like that for me. You know what I mean? One thing I'll mention is that like my approach to Amazon merch when they gave me 200,000 upload slots has been to like, you know what I mean? As a function of the number of upload slots I have, for me personally, has been to like literally sell in random, I call them just fringe evergreens, like so fringe that I don't have to worry about people copying me or jumping on my niche because who the heck cares if I'm getting one sale a year? But simple math, like if you have 200,000 products listed, you make $5 a sale and you sell once a year, you make $1 million profit. Now, I'm not even close to that, but I'm just saying in theory, right? So I'm willing to go that route and it keeps my account safe so I can continue on YouTube as somebody who actually does what I talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the scalable design side of things, isn't it? And I have a lot of those as well, and I get what you mean. Like I just sold one earlier, which is a random Halloween design for a random job title that I don't even know what it is, and it's sold. And I'm like, who would even want that? But yeah, you get those sales like once a year, and it adds up if you've got a lot of those scalable designs. But one thing I always sort of think about with the 80-20 rule is, for me, from my experience, it's rarely that, say I create 100 designs. If I look at those 100 designs 2 or 3 months later, 20% have not sold. It's usually, say, half a year or a full year later, or after Christmas Q4, let's be honest,
Yeah, yeah.
that 80-20 rule actually like makes sense. Whereas back to the previous question, all these people starting out in the middle of the year, they've created some designs, they've waited 2 or 3 months, and they've not really gotten many sales. again, you need more time, don't you? Has that been your experience as well? That it's, maybe a year later, 20% have sold?
I would just say, like, you just made a huge point that we shouldn't have glossed over. I shouldn't have glossed over, is that, like, yeah, to me, it's a 1 year sales cycle. Like, it is a 12-month sales cycle. So don't be mad if you didn't make a sale in a month, 3 months, 6 months. Like, I mean, really what it comes down to, I would say, is the fourth quarter is where you can really get like a nice benchmark of what is going to work and what's not. Um, and like that's why it's, when I talk sales, I don't, like, I think of it in terms of dollars per day, but I want to like look back on the last 12 months and average that out. I don't want to just look at, January to September and make my decisions based on that, when the biggest 3 months of the year are right around the corner, and that they're going to spike those numbers and bring the averages up. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's true. And I sometimes get designs selling. I forgot I even made them because they're like 2 years old. So even a really old design, which has never sold, can suddenly get a sale. You never know. It's like planting lots of different seeds. You don't know when you can harvest them, but yeah, most of them you won't be able to harvest a couple of months after. So I'm glad you've got the same experience. And you've been pretty open about the fact that you're not the greatest designer, that you're more business minded and automating processes. So I think there's a lot of people out there, or most people getting into print on demand, and not really very design minded. So what would your advice be to those people to make that design process as simple as possible?
Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, the majority of the designs I sell on a day-to-day basis are text only. And so the first thing I would say is find a few like good fonts that you like. And whether it's like a design, because when we say design, we think graphic, but like a design could literally be text. Maybe the top line, like, I would just say, without giving examples, is why does somebody buy the shirt you're selling? Right? Like, if it's a job shirt, like you said, it could be a Halloween job shirt. Okay, it's Halloween, so I want to integrate maybe some oranges in there, or in the design, or I will optimize my design for an orange shirt, one or the other, right? Like, we know orange is a big color. If it's profession based, that is what speaks to the customer who purchases my shirt. I'm not trying to sell to everybody in this case. So I'm going to make it perfect for that guy. You know what I mean? That teacher, that bus driver, whatever. All right. So like, I'm going to put that part in bigger text, or maybe a different color, something that is like the attention draw right away, because the bus driver sees the bus driver part of that shirt popping. Then their eyes are guided. Maybe it's smaller text, maybe it's a different color, whatever, to the other portion that is like Halloweeny. You know what I mean? Whatever the rest is that makes it Halloweeny. Like, that's how
Mm-hmm.
I'm always thinking of, like, who bought it, why'd they buy it, and they have to know what I'm selling is what appeals to them in from their peripheral vision in a fraction of a second. Yeah. So how do you check all those boxes? And that's more, I guess you could say, like, advanced. After, years of doing it, you start to understand how to market to your target audience. I would say don't try to appeal to everybody though, guys. And then honestly too, like, if you are considering yourself like new, there's no harm done with just like spending 5 minutes scrolling through Amazon, scrolling through Etsy, looking at like, they put the designs towards the top that are selling well, like, study what aspect of design really was working for them. And you'll probably notice that like a lot of the graphics are pretty simple too. They don't have to be complex or crazy. I like to do like two-tone designs, a lot of it too. So even if I have a graphic, like, it doesn't have to be multicoloring and crazy.
More like
If
a
I have a
silhouette,
and yeah, it could
silhouette
be a
sort of thing.
silhouette,
Yeah.
exactly. The vintage retro sunsets, honestly, there people are tired of hearing about that, but like, you can still use them and add a silhouette. I was gonna say one other thing, that like, if you do want to get into graphics, if you like, even if I'm not, I typically don't design, let's just be real. But like, if I wanted to, like, the Trump mugshot stuff was out recently. I'm pretty sure a lot of people listed Trump mugshot stuff. Okay. I can take that like low res photo, because I couldn't find a high res version, run it through this app called Cartoonize. It's like cartoonize.net, I think. And it will take a low res photo that I blow up for t-shirt purposes. And like, when it applies the like Cartoonize effects, it makes it usable. I've done it on like photos of my dog that I just loved, but it was such tiny resolution, but it worked. And I love how it came out. So that's like one of those things in my bag that like I will use. And again, even if I was a good designer, it's like, how much time do you really want to allocate to designing? That's the other side of the equation, when we're trying to make as much money as possible as a function of the time we have to invest in our business. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it also totally depends on you, how many slots you've got. If you've only got 100 slots, yeah, you can spend more time on designing. But in your case, it doesn't make sense, right? If you've got 200,000 slots to fill up, why would you spend 2 hours on every design? So I totally get that. But yeah, good tips there about the, font sizes, or having different sizes for different words. Color contrasts, very important. And yes, sometimes keeping things simpler is better. I mean, I'm big on using graphics in design, but I also often see designs where it's like 10 different objects in there. They're all scattered around. It's all over the
Right.
place and messy. So sometimes taking things away can actually make the design way easier to process, I think, for the customer. Because again, if you put yourself into the customer's shoes, they're scrolling through their phone, they're very impatient. They're not going to wait and look at your design for a minute to try and read it or understand it. They just scroll past and find another one. So sometimes the easier it is to process, the better. And what would you say in terms of design tools for beginners, or for people who are not into designing, because they probably wouldn't want to use Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop to begin with?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, I've been using Photoshop since I started making memes back in like high school, you know what I mean? And doing like videos and stuff for, Counter-Strike, the game that got me really into computers
Mm,
like over 20 years ago at this point. So that's like, I'm a creature of habit. I'm comfortable there. I keep it open like all day on my computer. So like if I just want to do something quickly, it's like always right there. It's open, but Illustrator is probably like the high end, like where you should be. For me personally, like I would recommend people get started in probably Canva or Kittle, like both, just, you know what I mean? When I say people, like generally speaking, like if I was teaching my mom or my dad and they wanted to get in there and design, like they're on laptops. They're not having multiple monitors. Their laptops are probably a lot slower than my desktop. I mean, for sure. So you can either install some heavy application like Photoshop or Illustrator, or just go to your web browser and type in, Kittle.com, or, you know what I mean? Or Canva.com, and
mm,
very user friendly, intuitive UIs. You can't go wrong on those sites. So I think that's a great place to start. And then if you are really in this for the long run, maybe just like in the back of your mind, if you have time on the weekend, watch an hour-long Photoshop or Illustrator tutorial, start to learn, and then consider whether or not you should purchase it.
I agree. If someone's completely new to designing and not too, computer savvy, then something like Kittle or Canva is probably better, because it's just easier to use, easier interfaces. You've got templates and all this stuff built in. So
Mhm.
I agree with that. If Just a quick tip for anyone who wants to try out Photoshop after a while, you could try it with Photopea as well, which is like a free
Yeah.
alternative. And that way you
Runs
don't
in the
have
web
to
browser.
actually, yeah, you don't have to actually invest into Photoshop straight away. I'm pretty sure you can do almost everything in Photopea
Yeah.
that you can do in Photoshop. So, um, yeah, that's definitely good advice for people who are not very design minded. But I think one of the biggest topic that people struggle with is typically niche research and finding niches. Do you have any advice to people, whether it is a free niche research method that's worked for you, or a paid tool that I've used a lot in the past or still use now?
You know, in the past, and for me personally, like I think context matters. Like if I'm trying to do research for Amazon, I'm gonna look at Amazon. But if I'm doing research for Etsy, like I'm gonna look at Etsy. Like I try not to confuse the two. Like I still think if you did research on Amazon and made a nice design optimized for Amazon, it warrants uploading to Etsy, right? Because you spent time researching and designing. Go upload it to Etsy because there's no reason not to. But I don't have the same expectation of success for that, most likely, on Etsy as I do on Amazon. I do think there's like you approach it a little bit differently. I do really strongly feel that way right now in 2023, especially. So I just wanted to make that distinction. All right. My
Mm,
personal preference these days, like in the past, I thought you could go and, even I published to my blog what I called like a search merch tool, which like it still kind of works, but we're at Amazon's mercy. And it used to work so much more reliable. When I say
mm,
work, like we're literally just figuring out ways to like kind of parse through Amazon search results and only show merch listings and filter out non-merch listings. But like Amazon really can do whatever they want with search results. You know what I mean? And they do. They obfuscate the search results so that bots can't like scrape their data constantly and create a perfect replica database. So they're intentionally kind of screwing with it. So it's really hard, I think, these days more than it used to be to do it without a paid tool. In terms of like a paid tool, really, whatever your tool of choice is fine. You know what I mean? I use a tool called Podly for my top 5 niches of the week videos. Even just looking once a week, I would recommend looking more often, especially if you're like paying to use the tool. But like literally just open it up, don't type anything, and scroll. Filter out the big brands. but just like, because that'll, there's no need to see like a million Barbie shirts selling. You can't sell them. Filter
Mm.
out the big brands and just scroll. And what you start to realize is like you see the patterns of the shirts that are like mainstays at the top, like the evergreens that are just always best sellers that you should avoid selling most likely in tier 10, right? Like I'm not old, I'm classic. Skip that if you're in tier 10. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but like you start to also notice the new trends that come up. You know what I mean? Because you have a like a reference point from the fact that you regularly look. You know what I mean? Even if it's once a week, that's fine, but don't make it any less than that. Is what I would recommend.
Hmm.
How about you?
Yeah, there's so many different free and paid methods. One thing I would definitely say to people is if you feel like you get stuck with research, just change your method. Like if you've been using the same method for a few weeks and you feel like you're not getting results, change the method. Even if it's just within the tool. Like what I quite like if there's like a random filter or to instead of having it lowest BSR to highest BSR, if you can make them random, you'll just see so many new like design ideas and random evergreen niches, which might have like a, I don't know, 500K BSR, but
Mm-hmm.
typically it'd take you forever to scroll down to that, right? So just changing the way some stuff is sorted,
Yeah.
um, trying out a different tool. There's many free options as well that are not always necessarily on Amazon. Like there's a tool I found out about recently. I can't remember what it's called. Something to do with Google keywords, and you can
Okay.
just find some random small evergreen niches that way that people are actually searching for. I mentioned that in the video a few weeks ago, but
I can.
yeah.
Is it keywords everywhere? Was that one? It
Uh,
used to be free and then they started charging. That was the one thing. I have two issues or two suggestions too for like a paid tool if anybody
mhm.
uses it. Like two things that you can do. One of them is a lot of the tools, pretty much all of them have this percent gained. Like they look at BSR, best seller rank on Amazon, which is indicative on a relative basis of how well this shirt is selling relative to other shirts in that category, right? So it's a good indicator of sales, right? Sales velocity. If you go to like they might call them like new trends or like whatever, different tools call them different things, but they're kind of like emerging trends potentially. One thing I do when I look at those is like I will set the BSR range, like on Podly, it's like 0 to 1.5 million, lower it. Because if you have tools, or I mean, even like, well, I think 1.5 million in that tool represents like any number of millions. So if you just lower it, then you don't just get like a shirt that had a 10 million BSR that just sold once and now it has a 500,000 BSR and it had like a significant jump on a percentage basis. Like it'll help filter those out so that you're not getting these like fake trends, shirts that literally haven't sold in 2 years, but then sold once and on a percentage basis had a significant gain. You'll filter a lot. It'll help filter a lot of those out. The other one I was going to say is like, you were giving tips on like ways to stumble across new evergreens. Like just one thing you can do is a lot of these tools track these shirts for a long period of time. And like, if you have the ability to look at like average BSR over a long time horizon, like for instance, like 90 days, I know is pretty common in some of these research tools. Like if average BSR over the last 90 days is under, let's say, half a mil, like that's a pretty good signal that, hey, this is not just something that is selling really well this week. And if you're late to it, you'll never make a sale. But this was selling well for the last 3 months. So perhaps it could continue to sell well in the future, and obviously with Amazon, there's like BSR history, there's different tools that track it. There's a, you can get into the weeds. I always say like for
Mm.
FBA where you spend money to buy your product before you ever make a sale, do as much research as you possibly can. For t-shirts, if it's kind of like, hey, like the only thing you're spending is your time, which is I think of it as a currency, then yeah, it's okay to do some research. If you're going to spend a lot of time doing research, double, triple, quadruple down on it. You know what I mean? Like immediately, like make multiple designs in that niche because you spent so much time validating it.
Mm, mm. Yeah, definitely. That's a good point with, spending more time doing niche research for FBA because I've never been one to like drill really deep into data, like how much search volume are all these different keywords getting and comparing all the different averages. You don't have to get as granular, but yeah, I do think with Amazon, right, there's a lot of different research tools and there's not the best tool. They're all somewhat similar or have a lot of similar features. One will have a different new feature, won't have that. But yeah, generally those tools, they're all great. Just I don't know, like Podly might work really well for you, whereas for the next person, flying research will work better. It's just
Mhm.
personal preference in many cases. What would you suggest in terms of Etsy? Because a lot of people sell on Etsy as well. And you did say, I would do separate research there if I want to optimize for Etsy.
You know, there are a ton of tools for Etsy. It seems like every week there's a new one, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like product research, I really like this tool that like doesn't even have an affiliate program. So I'm being real here, right? It's called Etsy Hunt. It's etsyhunt.com. They literally have like 50 million products in their database. So when you search, you're searching, and it's not like, I mean, Etsy.com has way more than 50 million. So these bots are working day and night to like scrape this data and push it to this parallel database on Etsy Hunt or on Everbee or on whatever platform, right? Like there's a million platforms, and like you were just saying, they all excel at like kind of different things. But Etsy Hunt, I love their product database, the search feature, very quick, gives you the relevant data you need. If you want to upgrade, I think I mean, the price could always change. I think it's like $4 a month. You know what I mean? So it's not anything crazy breaking the bank. And I've found that like pretty helpful. Obviously like you can hit little different filters too. So it's not just a keyword search, then you can filter those. And I found that really, really helpful.
And they have got a free version that is quite
Yep, free
useful, or
version.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's cool. I don't know if I've ever even seen that tool, so that's an interesting
Curtis
one.
showed me.
Definitely, yeah. Curtis knows so many good tools.
Yeah.
On the topic of Etsy, then I know you do a lot of shop reviews for Etsy. So anyone who doesn't know Ryan, if you've got an Etsy shop, go and submit it. You might get it reviewed on a video. So from your experience through those reviews, what constitutes a good shop on Etsy?
What's funny is I would just say that the reviews got so much more interesting in 2023 when people started doing like digital products, so it's not just like, oh, another week, another t-shirt shop.
Hmm.
So I think they've been a lot better this year, at least for me. I've enjoyed doing them more. To me, what constitutes a good shop? What's funny? The most successful shop we reviewed all year had over 5,000 sales. Like they did everything to a high degree that is required to be successful on Etsy, like good thumbnails. They frame their designs, like they frame their design in a way that makes people excited to click it and purchase it. Their designs kind of, you see it and like that's the shirt that I was looking for. You don't have to like squint and read, or you know what I mean? All that stuff that really matters. But one thing that they did that you don't see that often, or I don't see that often, is they were a niche shop. Like their shop was all one niche. It was a science niche, which is, it's broad, but everything on that shop was like, a lot of it was just like science jokes, right? Oftentimes a humorous spin is a nice way to sell a t-shirt, and their designs were at a minimum good enough, right? So they didn't suck, you know what I mean? They were good enough to sell. And I mean, as you expect too, yeah, like the 80-20 rule, like they had bestsellers, you know what I mean? But then they also branched out from those bestsellers and got into more like fringe designs as well that can generate a sale any day of the year, right? But then they're also being supported by their, mainstays that are in more competitive, higher search volume, sub niches of science. And I mean, what I love is like this landscape's always evolving. Like I'm always learning new things. One of the great things about having a YouTube channel is like we network with people that are smarter than us. They teach us stuff. If you have a niche shop on Etsy now, like you can integrate with Allura, another like Etsy suite of tools. You can set up email automation so that like your customers, that purchased a science themed shirt from you, well, your whole shop is science themed. Send them a coupon using automation now, saying, "Hey, thanks for the order. If you want to come back, here's a coupon." And you can, if you run a permanent 30% off sale, well, you can say, "Hey, here's a 30% off coupon." That customer probably doesn't know that you constantly run 30% off and that they're not actually saving any money. Next thing you know, you're bringing the customer back, and one sale turns into two. And little things like that. I'm loving it, man. So I get excited to see like what's to come. Like it may feel like Etsy's stale and stuff like that, but to me, I'm like, my head's always spinning with like new ideas.
That's interesting. Yeah, I hear this, or I see this discussion quite often about, a general store on Etsy or a niche store. So you tend to see more general stores, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
maybe it's because I'm reviewing their shop, and I usually say do a general store, but
okay. Well, I would say, I'm curious what your opinion is, but I would say for a beginner, if you're completely new, do a general shop, because what are the chances that the first niche that you pick for your shop is going to be the right niche? They're very low. So
yeah.
I would say start with general, and then if you found a good niche, create a separate niche shop. Is that something that sounds reasonable to you, or how would you do it?
Yeah, I'd say absolutely. it's almost like, if you approach print on demand the way you approach college is like, I'm going to go for 1 year, then I'm going to go for the second year, then the third and the fourth, and they constantly build. Like, I love what you just said as the approach. Like, start a general shop, even for me personally. And I mean, I've heard, through some behind the scenes networking with people that like I really respect as Etsy sellers that are more successful as me, that like that, they would much rather have had this level of success on Amazon merch first as opposed to Etsy first, you know? Less
Oh,
moving parts, less effort, you know what I mean? Like Amazon merch, you just list it and it just takes care of itself kind of, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, so like for me personally, and this has always been how I felt, even though there's people that say the opposite, and I wouldn't argue them, is like I prioritize my approach to print on demand for Amazon merch. So like I was saying, like, optimize, research on Amazon, optimize design for Amazon. It may not be Etsy style, right? Like the stuff that really thrives on Etsy, generally speaking, but I'll still push it to Etsy. And if I make 5 sales on Amazon and 1 on Etsy, that's one extra sale. I'm cool with that. So like, and if I'm doing it that way, well then, hey, it's going to be a general store because I'm not limiting my niches on Amazon. There's no reason to, in my mind. So yeah, but like, if you want to get advanced, if you have that niche store on Etsy, set up the email automation. You can kind of peel people to your Shopify store if you want. Like, I mean, obviously play by the rules and all that good stuff, but like, if you have a niche store on Etsy, well, like you should definitely have a Shopify store again, because it's so easy to upload the same design elsewhere. Let it sit in Google, let it get indexed, you know, use email automation on Shopify, build that to me, like your email list is the real business, whether it's print on demand or anything else. Like Amazon's not giving us emails. Etsy for some reason still does. Leverage that. Like there's a lot more you can do. And obviously like with my designs and all these other insane tools, like, you know what I mean? Like we're still getting better. We're still like me and you, man. Like we're talking heads on YouTube. We know everything, right? But we're still learning and improving our
Hmm.
businesses.
Well, that's why I do these podcasts, because everyone I've got on, I learn something new. And
Yeah.
yeah, people assume we're, just because we've been doing it for a while and we talk about it on YouTube, that we know everything, but we don't. Like we started just like you, just trying random stuff until something worked, and we're still learning it, getting better every day. So, but yeah, that's interesting what you said there. There's so many things you can do on Etsy, like those. I think they're called packaging slips, right? You can add them through Printful or Printify.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you could do it with Printify, but I know with Printful you can add packaging slips, and then you would have like, I guess, your Shopify store on there. I mean, there's no way for Etsy to track that.
Yeah.
So that's another way to send people to your own site rather than going back to Etsy. But yeah, definitely interesting. I come from the same approach with like scalable designs and lots of different niches. So I also, my biggest Etsy shop is a general store. I have opened a few smaller shops for my better niches, but yeah, the majority of my designs are in a general store, and that's also the one that's gotten the most sales. Just in case anyone's wondering.
Same for
And
me. Yeah.
what's, in your opinion, the highest or some of the highest potential marketplaces? I know a lot of people can guess what the top answers are, but
Yeah.
what's your, like, your top five? What would you say?
For me personally, if I'm just giving advice to people, like I always say, prioritize Amazon. They get like this is according to SimilarWeb, like 4 point something billion hits a month. Etsy, I think, is like between 400 million, 500 million. It also depends on what month you look, right? If you look in December, it's gonna be a bigger number. But like those two to me, and from there, I call it like next is like tier 2 marketplaces in my mind, at least. So it would be like use the Printify Walmart integration, right? Like I talked a lot about that coming into this year. I'm only in like the mid 30s of sales, or maybe I'm at like 40 sales now, which isn't impressive, but like the fourth quarter is around the corner. Let's see what we do there. And I'm not like breaking my back to manually push products to Walmart, but I'm still learning and I still am pushing. So I'm still like doing that. You know what I mean? My private, little community that I host weekly calls, like we're always talking about Walmart because everybody's excited about the potential. Just because it's not blowing the doors out right now doesn't mean that it won't be in a year or two, right? So long-term focus. But yeah, Walmart, eBay to me, the Trump mugshot stuff, like I sold a couple on eBay. You know what I mean? I know I'm not the only person that lists there. Like, but if it's like a big trend, like I will take the extra 60 seconds. I mean, I don't know how long it takes other people. For me, it's 60 seconds. Like I try to, keep my stuff as simple as possible. Go to Printful, go to my eBay store, add product, type in the product name. You know what I mean? Like it's not hard. And I publish there. You know what I mean? I get a couple extra sales. Like, and then beyond that, I would call it like more tier 3 marketplaces. And that's kind of everywhere that you can use upload automation for. So that's not like, hey, go manually upload. Maybe TeePublic might outperform. and Redbubble, you could argue. But then it's, all the other kind of horizontal, like lateral moves, like Zazzle, Spreadshirt, even Teespring, even though they don't get any organic traffic anymore, like those
Hmm.
platforms. Those are
Yeah.
my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned there that you upload to eBay manually, right? Is there a way to automate that with Merch Titans? I'm guessing there isn't, if that's what you
You
use.
could do it
Because
with Merch Titans because they support Printful. You could do it.
okay, yeah, okay, because you can do that as well with flying uploads. So I was just curious.
Yeah.
So anyone who does want to try out eBay, you can use either one of those upload automation
Just they
softwares
they
to
have
push
strict. I was sorry to
limits.
cut you off. I was gonna say they have like
Whatever.
strict like restrictions on not what you post because people commit infringement all the time. Not that anybody should be doing that, but like your quantity of what you can sell, and they count every SKU. So if it's like, oh, I selected 5 colors and 6 sizes, and you do quantity of one, that's 30 against your account's quantity of products. Whereas if I list like one vacuum, you know what I'm saying? That's just one. So it's like, but then they also do like quantity times price. And so it's like there's 2 ways to max out your eBay listing. So you just got to be careful. I just wanted to point that out. If anybody uploads to eBay, you
Mhm.
should, in my mind, at least upload your best sellers there. But
How have you
I do
been
one
managed?
color,
Okay.
one color, and you get to manually key in your quantities. Like Printful was smart. I honestly don't use Printify to eBay, but I'm assuming that exists. I key in my quantities manually, and I'm always like very low because you can just go back in and add them later, if they sell out.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good tip because I was just thinking if you choose like 5 colors, you've got 6 different sizes. You're going to fill up your limit very quickly. I think you start off with
Very
only like
quickly.
500 slots or something. I've tried it before. I didn't get very far with it, but again, it's just upload automation doing it on the site
Yeah.
sort of thing. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So the obvious ones, Amazon, Etsy, biggest potential, and then we've got some smaller platforms where you're not going to make thousands every month, but they're still worth trying for sure. Because one thing I always say to people is you don't know what your best platform might be, or your second best, or your third best, until you've tried them all. Because I'm getting a lot of sales on Tostadora, which doesn't get a lot of traffic. If I had if I'd just gone off the web traffic, similar web, I might have never tried that platform, and I would have lost out on a lot of money. So yeah, just try different platforms. Maybe your designs work really really well on Zazzle. Who knows? They sell a lot of greeting cards. It's like a different style. So everyone's got maybe a platform out there waiting for them to make them a lot of money.
Yeah, I
Um,
interviewed somebody that was good at Zazzle, and this was like last year, and she optimized everything for Zazzle though, so she made money. She made good money. You know what I mean? But like it was like the way I said I approach everything for Amazon, and I'll trickle it down. Like she approached everything for Zazzle, and you can do that. Like it's a great point. And one other thing I would say is like we're talking about the platforms we know, but like there's always new platforms. One thing I'll do every now and then is go to like incognito in my browser and then just go to Google and type in funny t-shirt and just scroll and look at the marketplaces indexed on Google. You know what I mean? Because that's where you want to be. You want to be on these marketplaces that are getting ranked. Even if it's on like, I don't even know if there's like a page 2 on Google anymore. Now it's just like infinite scroll a lot of times. But just start looking at like what is showing up, like what websites.
that's a good point because I think Juno recently made a video where he listed like 30 or 40 different platforms. Not all of them are print on demand. Like some of them are for digital downloads as well and stuff like that. But there was a lot of websites in there that I'd never heard of. So yeah, always worth checking what's out there. And last question then. This is a bit of a hot topic, or has been this year, in the print on demand space and just in general, I think, in the news, and that's AI. So do you think that AI is good or bad for print on demand sellers? Because a lot of people are on the fence about this, I think. Is it ruining the market? Is it making it too saturated? Are we going to lose our jobs? What are your thoughts on this?
Oh man, I think it's relative because like we know for a fact that if Amazon tomorrow wanted to just ban every merch seller and say from now on, we're just going to take the text prompt that is the search bar and generate like results in real time, right? Using AI of what we think the customer may want. Amazon would benefit, but if I benefited somehow from that because I was like an Amazon shareholder, or if I was like, Jeff Bezos or whatever, like I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. I mean, we know that is possible, right? It's not theory, like that can be done. So
Hmm.
What
Yeah.
time frame are we looking at too, right? Like how ambitious is Amazon? We know Amazon's ambitious. Are other websites going to follow suit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Good and bad.
I
Probably bad for most.
I do agree. Like that functionality is definitely possible and imaginable that someone types in a design idea and they get variations. However, I also think that some customers like can't be bothered with that. It's kind of I imagine it like I don't know what the supermarkets are like in America, but here you've often got the choice between a normal checkout with a person actually helping you, and then you've got the self checkouts where you scan everything yourself. Does that exist in America or?
It does, man. Really quick aside, my
Yeah.
girlfriend went to the store, forgot her wallet today, and there was nobody at the human checkouts. So she couldn't
Oh,
check out. She literally had to like leave the groceries, go to the bank, get cash because she forgot her wallet. I don't know how she's gonna
yeah.
pay in the first place. But anyways, yeah.
Well, that's another good example, right? If you completely take humans out of it, you're going to run into trouble. But I think there is a lot of people, not just old people, who just prefer to have a human at the checkout and don't want to do the self checkout thing. And if you make everything online with online shopping, create it yourself with I feel like that's going to put a lot of people off. So perhaps this is my prediction. We're going to get the option to like choose between different sides. Spreadshirt kind of has this model, right? You can either customize your own shirt or you can browse through the pre-made designs
Mhm.
in the marketplace. So I could imagine that with custom AI shirt, type it in yourself, but you have to put in some work, or yeah, just use a pre-made thing. But
I hear you, man. I hope that's the case.
in general, with the tools like AI tools, they've been helpful, like in my opinion, to print demand sellers, the chat GPTs and mid journeys. What do you think about those?
There's definitely like a first mover early adopter advantage for sure, man. Like in terms of like limiting scope and in time in like the midterm, I would say, yeah, huge benefit to the early adopters, people like me and you that are in my designs like every day. Yeah, I mean, we know, and the people who don't use it don't know. I mean, I don't know how
Mm,
else to put it, but I think the earlier you integrate those things into your workflows, yeah, again, it's just that optimization word. It's like it's just a word until it's not just a word. Like when I say optimization, it is saving me an incredible amount of time every single day, which translates to more money. You know what I mean? But if you're not taking advantage of these things that you now know about, the viewer, then it's just a word that I say. You know what I mean? It's just a word, but I'm challenging you guys to like take this and improve your workflows because that is how you're going to make more money. Like the fourth quarter is right around the corner. You can harness these tools. Like you don't have to go learn to be a developer and build the tool. People are building the tools with great development teams. Like all you have to do is get in there. Like I know you just released a My Designs tutorial. Like I would highly recommend people watch that and get going. You know what I mean? Like that would be
mm.
great. That's what you should be doing right now. And you're gonna get that not instant, but like it's August, about to be September. We are knocking on the door of the best time of year where you really get paid for the hard work you put in. And you know what I mean? Like having that long vision, to wait for October, November, December. So.
Yeah, totally. And it's very for the people who haven't been through a Q4 yet, or maybe started really late last year, it is very, very achievable to like 4x, 5x your sales, monthly sales, I'm talking, in November or December. So if you're not really happy with your numbers so far this year, don't stop designing stuff because you could have 500% as many sales in December. But if you let the foot off the like throttle now, you're going to lose out on a lot of sales. Is what I'm trying to say, even if it doesn't feel like it makes a difference right now. But
I would
yeah,
say one thing. Can I say one
mm,
thing real quick? I would just
yeah,
take you're like, oh, but I already posted all my designs to t-shirts on Etsy. So what am I going to use? No, literally like use my designs, take your same designs, drag, drop, bulk upload, publish them to Gildan 18,000 crew necks. Literally,
yeah,
like we're heading into fall. It's going to be cold. Double your visibility, double your sales, hopefully more, simple.
I agree. I started using my designs late last year, and that's what I did. I like uploaded a lot of 1800s sweatshirts and did get quite a lot of sales, like surprisingly. Compared to Amazon, I don't sell that many on Amazon, but on Etsy they seem to do really
Same.
well.
Yeah. It's
So
weird, right?
yeah. But no, I really like what you said there. You know that there's all these tools out there that can help you, but I feel like a lot of people are, I don't know, too intimidated or they don't want to put in the work to learn them. My designs is a bit confusing at first. That's why I made that long tutorial, just kind of trying to explain it to beginners. But I think a good word that fits in, I think this is a quote from Alex Hormozy. I might be messing it up, but I think he calls it ignorance tax. So there's always things we don't know, right? And the more you don't know, the more you're ignoring sort of that's out there, you're getting taxed for it. You're losing money because of that. So yeah, the longer you wait, the more you're gonna lose out, essentially.
And you could have put that video on behind a paywall. You know what I mean? You put it out for free. So hopefully people like, I want to do one of those too. I'm waiting for the new Canvas system, honestly. And then I want to do one, and we'll see. I might be greedy. I might be the guy that puts it behind a paywall. We'll see.
That's how I feel with my designs, though. I'm always like, I'll just wait for the next update because I know that update will be so good. But they're bringing out new stuff all the time, so it's really hard to make a tutorial that's not out of date in a week or two. And I always hold.
I recorded a whole course, and I just never released it because it was the exact same thing. I was like, it's already out of date. The UI's off. It's like I just didn't do anything with it.
You couldn't say that about Printful or Printify. They don't change whatsoever, if you think about it. And they're competitors, right? So although it's harder to use my designs, it's the more innovative train to jump on, in my opinion. But yeah, that's all my questions. There was a lot of valuable insight in your answers. Very interesting conversation. Again, like I learned a lot of stuff as well. And thanks a lot for coming onto the show. I'm pretty sure a lot of people learned some good stuff today. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. Anytime, Philip. Thanks, man.